Hey guys, Andre here. Welcome to the channel. And today I want to talk to you about can we, with Project Studios, compete with the top dollar studios when it comes to tracking, when it comes to recording. And so I was fortunate enough to record a few bands in top dollar studios, and I tracked and record a lot of bands in Project Studios. The typical square, rectangular, small room, some sounding really bad, some sounding better. And I can tell you that's a big difference in sound. Actually, I can tell you more. I can tell you that if you never went to a top dollar studio, you will notice that your own voice changes in those rooms. That's how good they sound. The problem is that it can be your client, it can be your own band, it can be your own music. The people that you are recording are still expecting for you to deliver. They want to compete with the big bands that record in those top dollar studios, and they don't want the excuses. They just want you to deliver. And so I have a couple of sessions here that were recorded in top dollar studios and one that was recorded in a Project Studio. So let's compare it and let's see if you can actually achieve the same results or not. And if you never heard a session that was recorded in a top dollar studio, stay tuned because this will be mind-blowing. So let's go to the DAW. Okay, back in the DAW. So in pink you can see the session that was recorded in a top dollar studio, and here you can see the session that was recorded in a Project Studio. But before I show you the differences, let me show you first this session. It was one of the first recordings that I ever heard recorded in a top dollar studio. So let me just show you. First of all, there are no plugins. There's only one plugin here, which is an EQ, and that is because this snare has this ring that I hate, but I'll show you anyway without it. So there's no plugins, there's no samples, there's no nothing. There's just a limiter so it doesn't clip. Let me show you how this thing sounds without nothing. I just balanced the session, nothing more. Here's the drums and I will add all the other instruments. What can I say? Of course, this was recorded in, again, the top dollar studio with great recording engineers, great musicians, and all the gear. Well, you know, it really makes a difference. Let me show you the sound of that room. Not only is big, but it sounds really, really good. There's a part of the piano here too. So this is the room mic from the piano. Okay, if you never heard a session recorded in a top dollar studio, this is how it sounds. Now back to our project again. Let's see the difference between a top dollar studio versus a Project Studio. So here's a top dollar studio. And Project Studio. There's a big difference here. Now, there are two things in common in both these recordings, and there are two great drummers and two great drum kits and well-tuned drum kits, and that's all that are in common here. Let's hear this one first. And let me show you the room mics. And now the room mics from the Project Studio. So the Project Studio sounds really thin, and it sounds bad. I don't have another word for it. And it sounds a bit fuzzy, probably because of the dimensions of the room. Some rooms sounds better than others, but most of them usually they just don't sound good. And to be honest with you, I think that if your room doesn't sound good, I think the best you can do is to deaden out the room as much as you can, and use reverbs or whatever, because it doesn't work. But we will use it anyway. Now back to the session. It's not only the rooms that are sounding different, because the kick is snapping a lot, and the snare too. Let's hear it. So this kick has EQ for sure. And this snare at least has some compression too, so the gear obviously helps, while this one doesn't have nothing. Listen to the kick. And the only way a drum kit sounds this good recorded in a Project Studio, it's just because this is a really good drummer, one of the best drummers I ever recorded, by the way. If the drummer can't play, you probably will end up just replacing all the shells. Anyway, let's see if we can compete or not with that guy. So the first thing I usually do in this case is to try to fix and get more room. So if the room sounds bad, the first thing I will do is to add reverb and play with the mix knob and try to make it sound bigger. Now, for sure, this is not enough, because if I solo the drums, you can hear that. It already sounds bigger, but not even close to the other one. To me, the better way to get the best results is adding samples, and that's exactly what I'm going to do now. Just hear the difference. So now we're getting much closer. And if you want to know what I'm using here, these samples comes with the trigger, are stock samples from the trigger tool. So if you have it, these are the samples, and the kick too. Now if you compare it again, let's see. Now we already have the room, I feel, and this is a metal song, by the way, just because it was the first one I picked. And so I chose the more explosive sounding, to my ears, samples. But anyway, let's keep going. The kick drum is sounding too bad, I would say. So let's try to fix it. And again, the first thing I will use is samples. And one thing I do is to use samples in a way that it complement with the natural kick in this case, which means that if I mute the natural kick, the sample will sound bad or too thin, and the same happens if I mute the kick sample. Let me show you. So what I did here is that the natural kick has a lot of low mids and a bit of lows, and I want more click from the pedal. And so that's what I did. I chose a sample more clicky sounding. And so when we play the drum, all the drum kit, let's compare it now. Still not quite there, but in a few seconds we'll see. And I do the same for the snare. So here's the sample. So just to show you where we were and where we are now, I will mute the samples and then I will add them. So we already came a long way. Now let's make this kick a bit bigger. I think it's much more closer now. If anything, it sounds much more compressed, but it sounds much better if you ask me. Now I'm exaggerating the low end here because, to be honest, I will be using this one for the mix. But just so you know that you can get the low end that you need. Now let's add more processing here to the snare buzz. Same to the overheads. Same to the room. And of course to the samples. And let's see how it sounds now. Now one thing that I find that is really cool to add more body to your mix, in this case to your drum kit. So I chose this one, but the truth is you can get a lot of low end with this one too, and even with channel strips, just by adding saturation. But let me show you what this one does. If you choose the Neve, Brit N, which is obvious the Neve emulation, it adds a lot of low end. Oh, there's one thing still missing. And again, this is a metal song, so a lot of compression. And this band wanted this song to be really polished and being a gent song with lots of power and energy. So I will add some parallel compression. Now, of course, if we compare with the other one, this one will sound much more powerful, I guess. Let's see. and a bit louder too. So, but if you add samples to this one too, let's see what you get. And just a bit of processing. Now this one it has a lot of compression, of course. Obviously, I chose the wrong one because rock metal. But anyway, I think you get the point. So to answer the question, can we compete with top dollar studios? I think we can. Now, if you ask me if this song were recorded in a top dollar studio, would it sound better? I think, of course, it will. Let me just show you because it's hidden. All the other tracks. I just put these three plugins here in the rhythm guitars because there's a lot of energy and I wanted to control it. And there's some plugins in the vocals which are muted, so it doesn't make a difference. And let me show you how it sounds. And by the way, there's a lot of things you can do to these drums, but just with this, and let's see how it sounds. To wrap up this video, just to answer the question, can you compete in your project studio with top dollar studios? I guess the answer is yes, you can. But we will need for sure great musicians and good songs. Because if you don't have, especially on drums, if the drummer is not good, there's not much you can do about it. Unless, of course, you program the drums or totally replace the shells with samples. So I guess that's all for today's video. I hope this video helped you out, guys. If all of you that have project studios and are recording in project studios in small rooms, all of you guys that are recording your own songs, you can definitely get great results. With today's technology is much more easy and much more simple, because back in the day, I'm talking about early 2000s, I'm not sure if there was a trigger plugin yet. I think there was just Rumagog, and there was no info on YouTube. There was nothing, pretty much, just a few books, and that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching, guys, and I hope to see you in the next video. Cheers.